Okay, so now we're going to do a digital clock using some images, flip images, which you need to go and get, and I'll just show you what you need to get straight away to do this project. This is the one I got. It's called flip clock or something. I've called it digit clock and I've saved it in an images subfolder, and as you can see it's quite big. It's only showing at 41%, so these numbers are going to determine what happens in the actual code that you write, so you've got to keep a note of those, otherwise it won't work properly. So what we've got here is 10 digits. It's 2635 wide, which means that if you divide that by 10, each one of these is about 263 wide and 451 high. So that's the first thing. And over here we will have a look at this. I'll just recap briefly because I've got to show something. There's a slight bug that I picked up, and it happens when you're trying to test these things. Some things get overlooked, and this one has been overlooked, and it happened by pure luck that we ticked over to 12 o'clock while I was doing this, and that showed up a little problem, because what happened was in here, and it'll affect the previous project as well, if you just leave that as the original got hour divided modular 12, when it goes to 12 everything shows up as 0. So instead of having this, you've got a pair of zeros, so you need to check that it's greater than 12 to do it, otherwise it just stays as a 12. Alright, so that's just a little bit extra that needs to go in there. You'll have to go back and change the other one as well, and that will fix it, and then the rest is as we go. So display numbers down here, very similar to what we had before, a little bit bigger, and the other thing is that there's no translate, so we're not translating to the middle, so we're top left hand corner again. We're back in the top left hand corner, so all these positions are relative to the top left hand corner, and how you use these numbers and how you set them up is up to you. Got a blue with a green and a red, sorry, a red and a yellow box. So over here that's what we've got. Okay, so that's sorts out the number string in the numbers with the colon in between. Alright, we didn't pass any variables through any of this stuff, which means that has to go in here, because if you put it up there somewhere it doesn't pick it up unless you want to pass it down here, which you can, but the colon goes in where it actually is needed. So that's the first part. Now let's go back and examine the second part. I'll just uncomment that for a minute. So what's happening up here? Well, remember I said 451, 263, so there's the numbers you need for your digit height, and they're in capitals, so they're easy to spot. They don't have to be in capitals, just easy. These are the three statements you need to get things happening. It goes and finds this image, and if it loads it successfully, it does the rest. Here's your little refresh, 1000 millisecond thing that happens, same as before, and then it goes down to time. And this time, instead of like in the one before with the analog and the digital, where they were separate, the times were got separately. They didn't have to be, but they were. This one, it only needs to be got once, and then it goes and draws the numbers, which we just went through, and then it draws the images. Now the way it works is this. It says this. If you're not sure about this, go back and have a look at how those 4 dots are painted in the dot one, because this is exactly the same, except it uses the same method. It's just that it looks a heck of a lot more complicated, but it's only using digital width and digital height to get the job done. So this first part, we're going to do the hour. So hour, whatever the value of the hour is, put that in, times the width of the ditch, 263, in that position. So it picks up that section of the image, so it might be picking up the 5 or the 10 or the 6 or the 9, whatever. This will tell you which one it's picking up. Okay, this will tell you how big it has to be, and this will tell you the position that they're going to be put, and this is actually reducing it by a third its height. And the reason for that is that if you go and actually look at the full size of that PNG file, those numbers are massive. They're like about this big. So if you reduce them to a third, they get down to a much more manageable look. Or you can just go and make the actual thing itself smaller if you wish, but That's just shows you how things work. It's good for restretching and stuff, so it's nice to know that kind of stuff. So there's your hour, your minute, and your second. And over here, when we refresh it, there they go, flipping away. So it goes here, picks it up, picks it up, picks it up. Also picks up the leading zeros as well, which is what you want. And this time for sure it's working. I might have said earlier that I thought it was working, but that was the bit that was a bit of an issue. So you need to go back and just make that little change in here, and you'll be in good shape.